Welcome to the Barker Podcast Collection.
Welcome to the Not Watching Podcast. My name's Rob Howard, and this week I'm joined by...
Ian Bruce.
And Marcus Hurley.
Shall we do TV then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Alright, okay, so TV shows of the year. As with movies, I've been kind of keeping a note of this as I've gone. So I'll kick it off, shall I? And I know that this is probably going to rank higher for some people than it has for me, but my number 5 is Westworld.
Okay.
Shall we? We can talk about it now, or we can talk about it later.
Let's talk about it later. Well, much later.
Since you're not so
in
fast.
more revered terms. And it's only because, and I really enjoyed it, but it's only because, it's been such a strong year for TV. There was stuff that I put higher than that. So, do you want to do your number 5 then, Ian or Marcus?
I suspect this will be higher than for you guys than it is for me, but my number 5 is Stranger Things.
Oh,
okay. All right then.
This is intriguing.
So how are we going to do this?
Yeah.
We're not. We're done.
Well, it's higher for me, so we'll talk about it when I get to it. Shall we?
Right.
Yeah.
What's your number 5, Marcus?
Oh god. Initially I had. Oh god. I think my number 5 has got to be. Yeah, it's got to be Preacher.
Okay.
Good
We can
one.
talk about that now.
Yeah. Initially I had another one, but I just remembered that, and I just remembered every time I was watching it, even when it was slower, I was just gripped. And there's not many shows throughout the year. I mean, there's shows I've enjoyed, but there's not many shows where I've watched it and gone, oh god, and then what's that bit? And actually gone back and watched it again and gone, oh fucking hell, it's all a bit weird.
Did you read the comics?
And then that finale, I have the first graphic novel.
You haven't read them all, though, right?
I haven't read them all, no. But
Okay, all right.
but then that last episode, I was like, okay, I see what they've done now. It's pre-Preacher.
Did you finish it, Ian?
Preacher?
Did you finish Preacher?
No, but feel free to spoil. I probably won't. It was good. I enjoyed it, but
It was a bit,
Yeah.
it was a bit, oh brother, where art thou? At the end,
okay.
to not give too much away, but it was that kind of oh right, okay,
Yeah.
and that all meant a lot, didn't it?
Yeah.
But
There
no,
was
they
some,
set a few,
yeah, go on.
they set a few things up in that, but ultimately, I found the show. It made my top 10, but I found it frustrating because I just wanted them to fucking get on with the comic, and rather than just stay in that one place for ages.
So
They
you're
spend about
kind of
one
like
issue
in the
there.
Walking Dead world as well, aren't you? It's like a lot
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Well, I'm not the same as with John where he gets frustrated because he's read it all. I haven't read it all. I've only read the first 2 volumes of Walking Dead. But Preacher, for me, maybe next year it'll be in my top 5 if they manage to kind of follow through with it. But I think they had to. I don't think they had the budget to do what they needed to do with it straight away, and so this was kind of a prequel for what's to come. So I still enjoyed it, like I say, made my top 10, but not my top 5. There's too many other great shows this year.
I think I might have watched probably less television than you guys.
It's all right.
Or just filled my time with network
I think you just
stuff.
watched different TV.
I just watched different spelled
Longer shows.
NETWORK.
We know how Rob
But,
approves of network TV shows. There's no snobbery from the
Yeah, I
old
know.
fella to do with any of that kind of
No,
stuff.
of course not. Of course not.
No,
But
none
yeah,
here.
no, for me it was. I really enjoyed it. I thought, it didn't go on too long. It wasn't like it was what 12, 13 episodes maybe. I think.
Respects the viewer's time like a good show
Yeah.
should.
It wasn't like 26 episodes. It wasn't a 26.
Jesus Christ, you're close. Just put me around and smack him around the head, will you?
Captain Condescending.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Preacher.
Okay.
Hallelujah.
Cool. All right then. So my number 4 is Narcos, which is just bloody brilliant. This was the fall of Pablo. Season 1 was the rise. The fact that they had the balls to go through with that after establishing such a amazing character, the character of Pablo Escobar, and the fact that it's going to continue, still maintain the same quality. It was on Netflix, obviously, so I could binge the fuck out of it. Just as great as the first show. I think that those 2 seasons is 20 episodes of quality TV that I won't hear any different about. But yeah, Narcos is my number 4, and I know you guys haven't watched it, but that's
what's
what
someone's first one?
I've been storing it.
Oh, you did? It can be a slow burn, but I still think there's enough going on.
That's all right, mate. That's all right.
I don't know. It's relentlessly grim, and the second season is even more horrific. So, if that's
if I'm honest,
not your cup of tea at the time,
the only reason I stopped watching it was because my Batman vs Superman DVD arrived.
so you watch that on repeat.
What was that you said?
Batman vs.
It's about as long as a season of Narcos.
Oh, of course.
Which I found to be
it's about
much
the same
more
length as a
Anyway, let's move
season.
on.
Excellent gift for Mother's Day.
When's your birthday, Rob?
Yeah, drugs versus tights.
Drugs versus tights. Wow.
Yeah. All right then. What's your number 4 then, Ian?
The Night Of.
Ah, cool. Nice shout. This.
Anybody else got
I
that?
don't know if it. No, it's.
Let's just.
I haven't seen it yet, actually.
It has been discussed at length before, I think.
It should have been. I might have accidentally removed it or something. I don't know. It was fucking good though.
Yeah, the ending was perhaps not as consistent as the earlier to mid ones of the season, but the performances were awesome. Were absolutely awesome. Turturro as the lawyer and Riz Ahmed as the protagonist were just great. It was great. There were some shots that it was one of the episodes I'm sure was just a van taken into prison, but I was gripped even with that. So yeah, it was.
Yeah,
great.
it's like the kind of thing where it would have been an episode of Law and Order, but they were able to kind of get into some much more grittier detail. It kind of because it took place it was an indeterminable amount of time, wasn't it? It was about a year. I think it took place over. So you kind of jumped in at different stages because his transformation was quite dramatic.
But they both had transformations, really. So that's what I liked.
Yeah.
Both characters.
Yeah, matey with his feet.
Yeah.
And the cat.
Yes.
Yeah, some great characterization.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's awesome. That's probably in my honourable mentions.
What's your number 4, Marcus?
Cool. Yeah.
My number 4 is The Exorcist TV series.
Nice. I'm glad you mentioned that as well. That was going to be one that I was going to get to. I just binged this. Sorry to hijack this, but I just binged this show and I fucking enjoyed it. It was a real surprise.
I believe that's another one I recommended, wasn't it, Rob?
Yeah, no, thanks. No, I mean, I already had my eye on it. I was just waiting for it to start.
Is it network TV?
I started watching it and I was just like, you need to see this. It
is a network show, but it's only 10 episodes.
Jesus.
It's exceptional for a network show. For a network show, it is exceptional. It really is.
Yeah, I was gripped. Absolutely gripped. We watched as many episodes as there were. And then when there were no more and we had to wait, we were like, is it out yet? No! God damn it, what do we do this evening?
Yeah.
Interact like normal human beings.
That's for peons. Yeah. Us higher echelon beings don't do that. We have Netflix.
Yeah.
But, oh man, it was so good. I'm not even really a fan of the films or anything like that. But it's just, I love the way that they expanded the world, in that the actual possession was just an ongoing thing, and then it all branched off.
Spoilers.
Storylines, but, well, I haven't said too much. I haven't said anything.
I'm fairly sure
really.
there's an exorcism and some bad exorcism stuff happens at some point.
Yeah, exactly. It's, but I'm not going to spoil it, but God, it's good. If you get a chance here, I recommend watching it.
I will. It's down for some live Christmas viewing.
I'll say no more. Oh yeah, bit of tinsel, bit of turkey.
Yeah, I just want to add to that because this almost made my top 5 actually. That Ben Daniels, the kind of grizzled veteran exorcist, he's brilliant in the role. There's some cracking performances. All the whole "by the power of Christ compels you," all that stuff is like really, they really earn all that. They kind of elaborate on the fiction of the original movie, which I know for some is revered, and this might even feel like heresy for some real purists of the original book. But what it does is it's a sequel to that, and there's a turn about halfway through the season, which I honestly did not see coming. And I think I wrote on the group, I was like, "Oh my god, that was awesome! Like, wow, what a payoff halfway through the season!" And it kind of just continued at that level of quality, and I loved all the stuff with the church and all the kind of evil shenanigans going on there. But yeah, I won't say any more. But yeah, I was really surprised. I was really surprised how much I enjoyed it.
Okay.
So thanks for that. Thanks for recommending that, Marcus.
That's good.
Give Castle a go, mate.
Cool. All right. Give Castle a go. It's too many episodes.
It's done now, so you can take your time. You can take. Come on, Rob. You need some warm and fuzzies in your life. Your sideburns and beard won't keep you warm forever.
I was looking for. I might give House a go, but only because that's on Netflix.
Do, mate.
Oh my god,
House, you would love it. You would absolutely fucking love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so dry and
cool.
smarmy.
All right. Yeah, no, I think I will. Right. Okay. My number 3 is Stranger Things. I don't know if anyone has this any higher.
I do.
We can talk about it. You do?
Okay.
I do.
Cool.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get to it later then. So, what's your number 3, Ian?
My number 3 is that fucking fantasy show with the dragons.
Oh, game of something?
Ponies
Throne
or something?
Game?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know it's...
Okay.
It
cool.
is becoming... Anybody else got it higher?
I've got it a smidgen higher.
Okay. Right. Okay.
So we'll get to it in a minute then. Right. Marcus, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is Westworld.
Okay.
I think that might be higher.
I've got it higher.
Okay, all right. So
this is crazy, isn't it? It's just like, what have we done?
Created a monster.
So my number 2 is Game of Thrones.
So's mine.
Okay, we can do that now then. Go on then, Ian.
My number 2 is Goliath.
No.
Ooh.
We're going to do Game of Thrones now, then we'll do your number 2.
That's fine. I just wanted to put in that my number 2 is not Game of Thrones or Westworld.
No, but we've all established where Game of Thrones is. Okay,
It's in there.
So since you had it, you had it lower than us. So go on, Ian. You were going to talk about it a minute ago. Go for it.
It's not higher because of that fucking Ian McShane episode, which was filler for me. I despised that episode. It made me think...
And it brought the whole show down.
Yeah, it did, for me, actually. The rest of it was great. The battle scenes, the pie, all of these things were... And the feeding to the dogs.
Was it that... Yeah.
It was the return of the...
It was the little farming village where...
character.
What's his face?
It was the return of a character.
Yeah, the return of a character.
I was just going to say, was it the episode itself, or was it his attitude towards the show that was quite public?
That probably didn't help, and that certainly happened before that one aired. But I just found it a bit. It wasn't. You know, I like I like whichever character that was, but it felt like they were just saving money. And when it got to the later episodes, okay, I'm glad that you saved the money, but I just didn't like that plot. Really, not really sure what it did. Didn't really do anything for me.
It felt like an introductory vehicle, didn't it? Just to get him back into the series.
There's so much shit going on with so many characters. we don't really need to do that, especially when we know he's probably going to be dead at the end anyway. So just don't do it and move the rest of it forward. I think, and that's becoming my thing with Game of Thrones. I'm pretty glad. I am actually quite glad it's finishing next season or the season after next season.
Yeah, we got 2 more
because it's enough already. Just tie it the fuck up. This is why I don't read massive fantasy novels, because I just start to lose track. And then the first few pages of the next one of me going, and who's that? It's all great and it's good, and I'm sure it will be on my list again next year or the year after, whenever we get the next one. But there were better things for me this year, and that's why we do this, because it's all subjective.
See, in a similar way to that show, bringing it down for you, the fact that they had that battle in it has made it very difficult for me to shift this show down any further than number 2. That combined, the same episode, you had the dragons, the dragon attack, and just the fact that being free of the constraints of the book, they were able to just pick up the pace a bit, you know, like overall, you know, they really, and that whole, the thing that we'd all been waiting for with her on the boats was just so cool, and all the extra allegiances she'd made as well, like that all just was such a big payoff for me, that's why it's my number 2.
It's like they just got on with it now. It's like, okay, we're wrapping it up, we've starting to move this, we're not going at George R.R. Martin pace anymore, where he's methodically tying up knots and going back round in a Dad's Army pattern for the plot. We're just like, we got shit to do. We've got 2 more seasons. Let's do it. Those seasons are going to be shorter. We're going to have more budget for them, maybe. Maybe that's why they're shorter as well. So it's going to be fucking insane. I mean, the payoff of it has to be mental. Has to be mental. And you're saying, and you're right, that last episode, I couldn't believe the amount of stuff that was happening.
No, that was mad.
At the point where the dragons attached the boat, I had jokingly turned to my other half and went, well, I guess that's blown the budget then.
Yeah.
And then it continued, and I was like, what the fuck am I watching? What the hell is this? This is a film in an episode.
Yeah, well, spoiler alert, the next 2 seasons are going to be shorter, but I don't think they're going to have any less money spent on them.
No. That's what I mean. It's basically going to have the same budget, but with less episodes, so it's going to be, I would expect it to be higher. The quality is going to be just mental.
I think you'll get a couple of episodes of plot, of setup, and then it's just going to be nuts. Hopefully.
I should hope for nothing less, to be honest.
We all like nuts.
Yeah,
After all these years.
Absolutely. All right, Ian, Goliath is your number 2, right?
Bizarrely, yes. I know this is only like a month or 2 old on Amazon.
Maybe it's good.
I grew up watching procedurals with my parents. Watched LA Law, Murder One in the 90s. So all of these things like this reminded me of my youth and the safety of comfort of my dear parents. But what I liked about this was Billy Bob Thornton was a bit of a dick in it. Not as much of a dick as he's been in other things. He certainly wasn't Bad Santa, but he was not an anti-hero, but he was just a bit dry, sarcastic, broken. So it reminded me of Totoro in The Night Of, but I think he did this had the end of the second episode. I had a what the fuck have I just watched moment, because it no pun intended, it just came out of nowhere, and then it was what that and then I was hooked. And much like The Night Of, there's probably an argument that says the ending was a bit that's what they're doing, but it's not. Everything is about the journey, not about the destination.
Absolutely.
So,
here.
Wherever it got to, I enjoyed getting there. So, yeah, that's there.
No, I really enjoyed it too. Didn't quite crack my top 10, but it's definitely up there. Okay, I think we kind of know what your guys' number 1s are. So I'll just do mine first quickly. My number one is Black Mirror. And I feel like a bit of a cheat.
I forgot about that.
Doing it.
Oh, shit.
Because
I haven't seen it yet.
Right.
Because it's almost not fair because it's 6 for the price of 1.
Yeah.
But I just thought that, and I wouldn't say every episode would be my number one, but just the one in particular, San Junipero,
Yeah, that
was just fucking amazing, unbelievable, beautiful, hopeful bit of drama, just amazing.
That was, I would, yeah.
Heaven is a place on earth.
Yeah, that was awesome. That was absolutely awesome, that episode.
Yeah, so, yeah, and also the first one was pretty good as well, where they did the whole Social Network parody thing. And yeah, so I'm not putting the whole season as my number one, just that one episode really. That just blew my socks off. I couldn't believe, I think I binged most of that season in one night. I had like a spare Sunday night and I was a bit hungover, I couldn't be bothered to play any video games, and I just thought, fuck it, I'm going to watch all of these because everyone is going to be, it's like a box of chocolates, you never know what you're going to get, you know. So yeah, can't wait for the rest of it. Nice one, Charlie Brooker. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he did well. Definitely did well.
Yeah. And also another one so that's my honorary Dan Trachtenberg name check in my list anyway. Sorry about 10 Cloverfield Lane. I'm glad you guys mentioned that though.
You're welcome.
All right, so
so
what should we do? Who wants to go first? Westworld or Stranger Things?
I'll go with Stranger Things.
Okay, that's your number one.
Yeah, very similar to what you said about Black Mirror. Me and the missus, we binged it. We watched all of it, and we just couldn't stop watching it. It just led from, I don't know why. I mean,
why did you like it so much? What was it about?
Just something about it. It made me
feel nostalgia.
I think it was just massively. It made me feel like a kid again watching these films, but as an adult. And it felt like a film, but it kept going on, and it was the fact that it tapped into lots of little things. And it might have been because prior to even knowing it existed, we started watching a lot of the old Steven Spielberg horror things because we'd watched Poltergeist, the remake, and then we went in to watch the original one. And then I think I watched Close Encounters, and then I was sort of looking at the old films that I'd watched as a kid, like Daryl and The Boy Who Could Fly and Flight of the Navigator. Never got around to actually watching them, but it made me think about them. And then this series came along that kind of felt like all of them wrapped up, but a bit more adult. In which case, you know, the protagonist, I mean, we've talked about it, so I'm not going to go too much into it, but it felt like they were actually in danger. It felt like
there was risk.
When the bad guys caught up to them, they weren't going to throw them in a van and put them in a cell so they could escape. They were probably going to catch them and shoot them in the head. Which
I think
was just horrible. It was just...
Yeah, I think what this show tapped into was that sort of level of threat and fear that a lot of those 80s movies had.
Yeah.
We were sort of younger when we watched them, and I don't know if it's not so much that they don't make films like that anymore. We just don't get to watch films through that prism anymore.
Well, I think
it did a good job of sort of simulating that again somehow. I don't know. Maybe it's just because you hooked onto the kids and they, you know, you were kind of seeing it through their point of view. Maybe, I don't know, but it definitely conjured up that sort of feeling again. That's why I loved it.
I think they managed to get exactly that. They managed to get the world right. All of the things that you're used to and you take for granted now, like mobile phones and, you know,
simpler
everything
times.
else. You can't have it. So you had to go and cycle to the house to talk to people. You know,
the good old days.
Skype.
Google Map. You know, it's like, oh, where are we? You can't look on Google Map. There is no Google Map.
Yeah, you can't Skype and stuff like this.
And it was the fact that they mixed, like you said, all of the 80s feeling, but with the grittiness and sheer awfulness of life that we tend to have from our shows now. Yeah. And I think because we're adults and we're used to life being a bit more bitter and, you know, and the horribleness, and I think that's what Winona Ryder's character
Speak for yourself.
summed up. You know, Well, no, but I'm saying that's why the thing is that's why we identified with her because we're life can fucking ruin you, you know.
Yep.
Well, and it just reminded you when you was a kid and you used to play around and you get on your bikes and you just go somewhere and there'd be some weird little hideout you would go to and all that sort of stuff. I don't know. That's
kind of what I did as well.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It was great because you had all of that, but these characters, in those typical films, you wouldn't have seen the same depth. The Winona Ryder character would have just been, the weird mum. She'd just be hanging out, with a fag in her mouth, with rollers in her hair, in a dressing gown, going, "Don't go too far." That'll be it. Yeah. And the cop will be odd, and he'll have his idiot sidekicks, and that'll be it. And he'd, punch the bad guy at the end.
Yeah, but the cop was like the badass, like, fucking action hero in it.
Solid Snake, I reckon, or something like that. He should have been.
He was like, okay, he's a total badass. Fine.
I was just like, he went into the facility. I'm like, okay, he's wandering. No, he's not just wandering. No, he's going full recon. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
no, it's great.
It ticked every box for me, to be honest.
Okay.
Anything to add about Stranger Things, Ian?
All of those things, but other things excited me more is all I can say. It's difficult when it's 5 for one and 1 for the other, but
yeah,
that's it. Well, I mean, there's a lot of overlap here, so let's get to Westworld.
Oh.
Which, I think
was Westworld your number one?
I'll just no, Westworld was my number 5, and it would have probably been higher had I not been an idiot and gone to scorched, flown so high and scorched the sun and all that business. So basically I read and listened to too much speculation, which didn't enable me to get blown away by all the cool twists and turns. Yeah, but this is interesting, and I think it's an interesting thing because I go out of my way not to be spoiled. I won't read news stories or reviews of shows that have already happened. But I was always quite interested in the conversation with shows, and especially with stuff like Game of Thrones. I listened to a really cool podcast, Cast of Kings, with Dave Chen and Joanna Robinson, and they were really good about like not spoiling things because she'd read all the books. So she knew what happened in the books, but they didn't really know what was going to happen in the show. They would speculate, but I think it worked in a show like that because there's so many names and people and storylines. This is just a single thing that's going on week to week. I wish in a way Westworld had just been like on Netflix and I could have just binged it and had it all, experienced all of those reveals. This is another level beyond spoilers now, where you have this collective speculation going on, and there's such an echo chamber going on that unless you really just make an effort to not get involved,
but that's a simple choice
then,
you can make,
all
my
these
friend.
kind of I just have to not listen to the podcast, which I will know.
I did,
yeah, and
I won't listen to I won't listen to the podcast anymore. I hope season 2 is able to, do that magic trick on me. I had the same shit with Mr. Robot this year as well. I'm just shutting it all down now, man. I'm not getting involved. I just want to watch these shows and not fucking be part of it
he will be having this same conversation this time next year where he said, and I fucking did it again. I fucking read all the spoilers for Westworld season 2 and I've just...
But I don't do this. I don't go out of my way to do this, ever.
Well, it doesn't just happen across your head while you're having a shit or something, does it? You do go out of your way to find it. Unsubscribe from the...
Well, no, but I just subscribe to the podcast and it's going on in my ears and I'm like, I really want to listen to people talking about this show, but...
Subscribe to podcasts.
Yeah, but the point is, look, I'm not searching for spoilers. I just want to be... I want to watch the show and then I really enjoyed watching Game of Thrones, and then the next morning I would listen to them two talking about Game of Thrones, and I would enjoy that discussion. Yeah. It would help me understand what I just watched, and all this. But what that show turned into was just we've got to work it out.
They are different things, as you said yourself. Thrones is based off a ton of books the size of a tree, and people. There is a kind of unwritten rule that if you've read the books, you don't spoil it for the people that haven't. So they weren't going to do spoilers for the things that were coming up. Whereas Westworld, is Lost for whatever decade we're in at the moment, where nobody really fucking knows what the hell's going on. It's not quite as Lost was. It seems to make more sense, and they've learned from the Lost debacle, but
it's definitely more tighter than that. Yeah, it's much more reined in. And I, even though I knew what was coming, well, I didn't know what was coming. Everyone had just guessed what was coming, and told me. So I still appreciated watching it unfold. The whole bit with I don't really want to spoil it too much on here. But with certain character being made aware of what he actually is, or she actually is. The way that was all handled, I thought was masterful, and I honestly was like, the gears started clicking in my head, and I was like, oh, that is okay, that's actually happening. So I still got some enjoyment from it, and I enjoyed the way that the show was shot. It looked really beautiful, and excellent performances. Anthony Hopkins was brilliant. They were all great. I'm a big fan of Jeffrey Wright, I believe his name is. Bernard, that guy. But they were all very cool. But the big payoff at the end, like that has been speculated from week 3. Everyone was like, that's happening.
No, please don't say the word everyone because there's 3 of us here, and it's only you that were involved in that. 2 of us just went, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next.
Rob, at the end of that speech, can you edit in Tyrion Lannister saying, I wish I had enough venom to poison all of them. I wish I could have choked on it. Because that was your Tyrion Lannister speech.
Yeah, fuck the internet. Seriously.
For making you do stuff. Jesus.
I was just a fool.
Yeah, but I think with a show like Westworld, it's the maze. It's the parody. It's the whole idea is that you're meant to be in the maze as a viewer.
Absolutely.
So I purposely decided not to follow anything because I wanted each week for it to lead me along a new path. And I have to piece it all together myself. So when all the little reveals were going on and some bits I didn't quite twig, I was like, oh my God, that's happening. Suze isn't quite as into it. She thinks it's okay. But it's grabbed me. I absolutely love this show. There have been times where I've considered wearing my black hat to work just to see whether people would get that. If I'm having a particularly bad day, I'm going to go black hat. That's now a phrase I mutter to myself.
I think on a Wade Point average, this is probably our collective show of the year.
It's the last thing we're talking about.
The top 3, the last 3 have been, they're interchangeable. I think, personally, Westworld might pip Game of Thrones in general, because I enjoyed the whole series more, but Game of Thrones, that fucking episode.
With the Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah.
Oh. Just the end of the series. Just,
Yeah, for sure. One more thing about Westworld, I really enjoyed the music. Ramin Djawadi, who did Game of Thrones soundtrack, did some great work with some contemporary pop songs. I really enjoyed. I think that's all on Spotify now, or some of it is.
Yeah, and it's on YouTube as well, I think.
It's certainly popped up on some of my the automatic playlists it does based on what you've been listening to this year. So that's showed up a few times. That's our that's our TV shows of the year. Any other ones worthy of mention? You already mentioned The Exorcist. I mentioned the Mr. Robot just a minute ago, but I still enjoyed.
I'd like to mention that there are, if you're in the UK, that British TV do some stuff as well. Happy Valley had season 2 this year. If you've not seen that, dark as fuck. But if you look at the people in it, you'd think. I think I've spoken about it before. You'd think, but actually, really, really dark, like Broadchurch kind of dark. Sadly, that's the only one I can think of. Night Manager, was that was this year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that yet.
Starting to watch that. Just got that. Pretty good. Hugh Laurie's pretty good in it.
Good thing.
Yeah. So
cool.
There's British stuff to watch as well if you don't want to pay the money for the Sky Atlantics and the shizzles.
Oh, for sure. I finished season 2 of Humans. Wasn't quite as good as the first season, or the beginning of the first season, rather. But still pretty good effort. I think it suffers by comparison, having just watched Westworld, which is not entirely dissimilar. But it's kind of like, they're androids, and it's all a bit like on the nose, really. And a bit, I don't know. It's kind of feels a bit close to home, because it's just like, it's in England, so it's a bit weird. 11/22/63, that's probably worth a look.
That was excellent.
As a sort of one-off, time travel thing with, what's his face? What's his name?
James Franco.
What's his face?
That's it, Franco, yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's probably not worth mentioning, but I've been watching and sort of tied up a few shows I've been watching this year as well. Not really honourable mentions, but there was obviously Luke Cage, which dragged on a bit, but was kind of interesting. Not quite as good as Jessica Jones. Sleepy Hollow, which I picked up again.
Okay.
How many seasons have they done of that now?
It's 2. I think it's 2. Sleepy Hollow.
I think I watched season 2 of that. I thought they were on.
It might be season 3 or 4 now. Yeah, I think it's season 3. 4's coming out January.
Yeah, I didn't mind that when I watched it.
It was
originally.
Oh, so brave! Finale to season 3. Very brave move.
They're on 4 next year.
Yeah, I think it starts early January again. But we've been watching that because we left it for ages, absolutely ages, and then we kind of grabbed a few episodes and we just haven't stopped. It's been like a regular viewing, and also, strangely enough, really got into Supergirl. Sounds dodgy, but
that's right.
Yeah,
I think
I would say it's a nice successor to The Adventures of Lois and Clark. That sort of Saturday afternoon television sort of show.
Isn't Clark her dad or something?
Yeah, which is weird because Dean Cain, he's actually in it as a dad. But I'm finding I'm really enjoying that, and the little crossover bits and pieces as well. I mean, that's just finished up. We've just caught the series finale of that. And so, I've got to go back, and I haven't watched series 3 of Arrow, or is it season 4 or 5 of Arrow, and the 3rd series of The Flash. I've suspended them because it's like,
Rob's excited about this network
doing
TV
too much
talk.
network stuff. I'm hearing your voice, Rob, going, "You're watching too much network stuff."
Oh no! Don't let that happen to you. Don't honestly, who cares what I think? It's like for me, I can't keep up with any of that stuff.
No. Okay. And then we need Stephen Fry's voice to sort of like interject in, and then the podcast disappeared in a puff of smoke.
I have to say, looking forward to 2017, I think my viewing habits might change slightly. I've got a bit of a epic commute that doesn't involve any walking, sitting on a train a lot. I've just re-subbed to Amazon Prime, and you can download stuff on Netflix now. So I think I'm probably going to be hammering that for all it's worth. There's some cool stuff on both those services that I'm looking forward to trying. The Expanse.
Yeah, I wouldn't rush to that. I found that a bit dry.
Oh, okay.
Good.
But I've queued up a bunch of things on Amazon Video. The latest season of Man in the High Castle just dropped, but the reviews have been a bit stinking.
Oh, really?
So I'm gonna,
Shit.
Well, there was some people. I mean, to be honest, I nearly gave up on season 1 before the end of it, but
too.
That final episode was cool. So I don't know if I will go back to it. There's just a lot of other stuff that I think I'll probably get to first. Vikings is back on, although I'm waiting for a few of them to pile up. But anyway, is that all for TV in 2016?
Yes.
Anything else we need to mention?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. This has been the Not Watching Podcast in partnership with notlistening.co.uk, where you can also hear myself, Marcus and Ian talk about video games and virtual reality on the Not Playing Podcast, and Adam, Ash and Will talk about all manner of funny things on the Not Listening Podcast. You can email us at notwatchingpodcast@gmail.com, or you can tweet at or follow us on Twitter at notwatchingpod. You can find the show notes for this show at notlistening.co.uk, and if you're listening to us on iTunes, then please do give us a review. Anyway, that's all for now. Thanks for listening. See ya!